are you all? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Peyton and this is my April wrap up. April flew by. So busy with work and getting stuff ready for this trip and planning. By the time you see this, I will be a week into my trip to Japan with my husband. It's our honeymoon and I can't wait. I'm so excited. I pre-recorded a couple videos beforehand, but I'm probably gonna miss a week, FYI. Anyway, April was a really good reading month. I think I've probably had the best reading month I've had so far this year. And I also got through, let's see, how many books did I get through? I got through 11 books. I moved a little closer, so sorry if that's what it looks weird. I read 11 books. I had 1 DNF. The lowest rated was 3 stars. 2 new releases. Surprisingly have a new horror favorite, and I'm so happy about it. Sorry if you hear Mac chewing on a bone in there. But let's go through all the books and let's talk about them. The first one I'm gonna get out of the way was the DNF, and it does pain me to DNF this. I think this is a soft DNF because it does make me sad because this was one I was looking forward to, and this was the second book I've tried to read from my 1001 books to read before you die. One was a new favorite and this one I DNF, so it's kind of looking a little rough. But that book is H is for Hawk by Helen McDonald. This is a memoir. I got about 70, 80 pages in and I had to DNF it. I wasn't drawn to picking it back up like I usually am with memoirs. It's been a hot minute since I've read a memoir. For whatever reason, this just wasn't clicking for me. This following her dad's very sudden death. She is thrown into grief. She is an experienced falconer, but takes it upon herself to try and train the most unruly, untrainable type of hawk, which is a goshawk. I think my problem with it at the beginning, or at least the 80 pages I read, it was very dense. It was a lot more about falconry, almost read a lot like a textbook, and I wanted more of that exploration of grief. I wanted more from her, and maybe I would have gotten that. It's not a long book. It's less than 300 pages. I just wasn't sucked into it like I normally am. I think this will be truly a soft DNF. I don't know when I'm going to pick this up again, but I think when I can devote more time and attention to it, or maybe get the audiobook, I think that would make me get into it a little more. The next 3 we're reading Booktuber's Best Books from 2023 video. I have more extensive thoughts in that vlog, which I'll link down below if you're interested in those thoughts. Those books were, I've read 5 total, but these trailed into April. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, Happy Place by Emily Henry, and Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. Lowest rating I gave out of these 3 was Project Hail Mary. I gave that like a 3.5, 3.75. I gave Trust a 4, 4.5, and I gave Happy Place a 4, 4.5. I really enjoyed all of these. I will say, if you're planning to read Project Hail Mary, get the audiobook. The audiobook is excellent. Even if I didn't love or was wowed by the book and I had a lot of annoyances with it, I still enjoyed the experience of listening to the audiobook. But check out that vlog for those thoughts. Yeah, overall that was a really fun video, a really fun experience. I got some new favorites and some new favorite authors that I want to read more from. Not Andy Weir. I don't think I want to read Andy Weir again. Next, before I forget, the ebook I read this month was The Law of the Skies by, I'm gonna butcher his name, Gregory Courtois. This is a short little book. It's 128 pages, 130 pages. This is a horror / extreme horror book. It's real rough. This follows 12 6-year-olds and their 3 adult chaperones, and they go away for a weekend on a camping trip, and none of them make it out alive. I overall enjoyed this. Like I said, this was probably the lowest rated of the month. I gave it a 3. It is very violent. It is very vile. It's very rough to read. You're mainly in the POV of the 12 6-year-olds, and as they get taken out, it's so devastating because when you're in the 6-year-old POV, like obviously they're 6 and they're terrified and they're witnessing horrible things, experiencing horrible things, or they're hurt or in pain. And if you have any sensitivity to anything with kids being hurt or meeting a horrible end, probably skip this one. It does not shy away from any type of detail. That being said, the thing that bothered me with the structure was you would switch between the POVs of multiple 6-year-olds like mid-sentence, mid-paragraph, and you'd be really like confused, or it would switch back to one of the adults. Another part that really bothered me is like I said, you're in the 6-year-old's POV, like they're acting and thinking like a 6-year-old, like they want their mom or they're hungry and they're scared, but it would also have these really deep philosophical points in their POV, and they're like switch like to a couple sentences later and they're like waxing poetic. So that part threw me because there are a lot of flaws with this book. You really have to suspend your disbelief reading this. The situation they're in and a lot of things that happened are kind of absurd and probably wouldn't play out that way, but I was entertained by it, even if it was really gross. Like there are some beautifully written parts. I wasn't wowed by it. I was really grossed out by it, but I did enjoy it. I did include it in my most disturbing books video as a newer entry, if that tells you anything. Yeah, it wasn't my favorite, but it was fine. If you like extreme horror and you haven't read this, you can check it out. You might like it. Next book I read on my Stephen King journey was Cujo. I knew like the baseline. I saw the movie, or most of the movie, years ago, so I've kind of put off reading this because I just thought it was about this rabid dog trapping this woman and her kid in a pinto for what I thought was all the entire book, because that's what the movie is primarily. So I really put off reading this. The book is so much better than the movie. There's so much more to it and going on. There's so many more characters. There's so many more plot. And these characters have their own storylines that all ladder up to the main one. At its barest bone, this is about a very sweet, lovable Saint Bernard that gets rabies and traps her woman and her son in their pinto in the summer heat. Now, that seems like an open and shut story. Could be a 30-page short story. No, no, no. Stephen King manages to draw this out into this horror-filled nightmare for 310 pages. I really like this a lot. The reason I picked it up now is because his new short story collection that's coming out in May includes a sequel to Cujo. That's why I wanted to pick it up sooner rather than later. It was so much sadder than I thought it was going to be. It was so... Sorry, the dogs are in here if you hear click-clack. Stephen King that I've pursued the books I've read recently, they haven't wowed me and I didn't really care for them. But this was great. This is like the main reason I keep going back to trying to read more classic King. Next, these were a surprise. I saw Katie on Katie Marie Reads. Put her right here. I love her videos. She's so great. She recommended the first one and then I immediately bought the next two. And then it's Lightfall, The Girl in the Galdarian. This is a middle grade graphic novel. It's so good. It's so cozy and sweet, but this is about a girl in a Galdarian. This is in the land of Urpa. There's a home where the pig wizard lives with his niece who is adopted. There is this shadow that's crossing the land of Urpa. The light is going out in the world and the pig wizard goes on a quest to find it, but then his niece gets concerned about him because he doesn't have the best memory. He gets lost a lot and she goes out to go find him along with the Galdarian and a cat, and it's just so delightful. It's very sweet. A lot more action than I thought there would be in a middle grade book, and maybe because I don't pick up a lot of middle grade, I feel like that's going to change now for sure, because this, I love this. This is by Tim Probert. There are 3 currently out. The 3rd one just released earlier in April, and I read the first and the second one back to back. They're just delightful. The illustrations are so beautiful. It just makes you feel really cozy, and then the found family aspect and friendship and them going on a quest. If you're like itching for something like that to read, I would highly recommend picking these up. Katie, thank you so much for talking about these because I needed something like this in my life. And the next one, I'm kind of sad talking about this because I didn't love it as much as I thought I would. That's The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I liked this. I gave it 3.5 stars. I didn't love it, and I was really bummed about it. I think it started off so strong. And I have more detailed thoughts in my reading blog where I go read this. I feel like the plot didn't really get going until like around the 60% mark. It's a 400-page book. There wasn't that much left. And I feel like a lot of it was really rushed and a little messy towards the end. I thought about it, and maybe it's because it's a standalone and she's written a lot of series or duologies. Maybe that's it. But I think there needed to be like a higher page count or something to just, to me, make it flow better. And then the romance aspect was a little lackluster for me. I liked how the characters were written. I loved the setting. I loved the historical fiction aspect of it. I liked the research that obviously went into this. It's just the story kind of fell a little flat for me, and I'm still a little bummed about it, but I still enjoyed it. And one of my best friends, she loved this. She says it's probably one of her favorite books of the year. So that just shows how subjective reading is. If you're still eyeing this, definitely still read it. I love Leigh Bardugo. I'm just anxiously waiting for another installment of Alex Stern because I'm still riding the high of Ninth House. I'm probably going to reread Ninth House. If anything, this made me want to reread Ninth House again because I'm just missing that. I'm missing that story and that world and those characters a lot. The last 3 I read this month were some of my favorites that I've read this year. And I'm going to start with the one that I don't see anywhere. I don't see this book anywhere, and I want to shout about it from the rooftops. It blew me away. I got this as an ARC, and as soon as it was released, I went out and bought my own copy to annotate. That is Grey Dog by Elliot Gish. This was so sick. This is set in 1901. This follows a school mistress named Ada Bird, and she has been recently transferred to this very small, isolated town in the woods where she is to be the new school teacher. There's obviously a lot from her past that is weighing her down and secrets she is carrying. It's all written in her diary entries. She slowly discovers why the last school mistress left. She starts to experience these weird feelings like she's being watched, like she's being followed. She starts hearing whispering at night and having like these dark thoughts and urges. She feels like her past is catching up to her. This is a very slow burn, meticulous burn. It's about 400 pages. When I talk about the amount of just sheer female rage that it lies in these pages, especially towards the last half of the book, oh my god, this is the way to do it and do it well, because it is such a slow spiral into madness. Man, if they ever make this a movie, this would be an excellent movie. It kind of reminds me of The Witch, that movie, but not in the same type of plot, not plot-wise, but same like setting, like the eeriness of the woods, what's possibly out there, and the folklore element of it. Probably isn't for everyone if you don't like slow burns and horror that really creeps up on you and takes its time. You probably won't like this. It's so incredible. To me, like, the payoff is so worth it. This will 1000% be one of my favorite horror books of the year. It's not that I've had duds per se this year. I haven't had a lot of horror this year that's really wowed me and shown me something new. The pacing was really great. Oh man, it's so creepy and so unrelenting. Cast of characters in the town that just make it even more unsettling and weird. Queer, horror, female rage, like all that stuff just packed into this book. And I want to reread it because I've slowly been going through and annotating like the parts I marked on my Kindle, but I'm just gonna reread this and annotate it. I really loved it that much. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Ah! Oh my god, my stack almost fell over. Let's not have that happen. So my book club pick this month was The Bandit Queens by Pruny Schroff. Oh, this was so rad. This was so sick. I was really unsure at first, but then it really picked up. This was so funny. This was so captivating. It had so much good commentary. So this is set in a small village in India where there is a woman named Geeta. Her husband went missing, or she lost her husband. Her husband went missing 5-6 years ago. Nobody knows what happened to him. And all the rumors around the village are that Geeta did away with him, got rid of him, murdered him. And the funny thing is, Geeta doesn't correct them. She kind of just goes with it, and it's really upped her standing in the community and made others fear her. It's been good for her business. But now, other women in the village are started coming to her with help with their husbands who are terrible, terrible shitbags. You know, Geeta's like, you know, why not? Why not? I underlined so many parts in this. It was so laugh out loud funny in a few parts. Wasn't sanity like beauty in the eye of the beholder? And just so much commentary on the violence and how the violence against women in India and how it's almost dealt with very casually. It's very much expected as a way of life to be treated like very horribly and abused by men. This group of women written so well in their personalities. Like, obviously you don't want to root for murder. You don't want to root for bad things to happen to people, but man, in this book you do. I really liked it. It slapped. This book slapped. Alright, and the very last book I read this month, I actually finished it this morning. This is part of my spring TBR that I really wanted to get to this year. That is Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart. This was devastating, gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching. This was so sad. Much like my experience with reading his first book, Shuggie Bain. Like Shuggie Bain, it's like a very vivid portrayal of the working class in Scotland. I think in my spring TBR I said Ireland. Sorry. He's a Scottish American writer. It's also this very moving, deep story about the love of these two young men named Mungo and James. They're in Glasgow. Mungo is a Protestant, James is a Catholic. Mungo's brother is the leader of this gang that's very violent and will just beat up Catholics on sight, like severely maim and injure them. Obviously being gay or queer, it's set in the early 90s. Being those things in this time period was very, very dangerous. They have to keep their love a secret. The book is told in dual timelines. One at the beginning where, at the very beginning, Mungo is being sent, he's 16, Mungo is being sent by his terribly neglectful alcoholic mother after something has happened between James and Mungo, and you don't know what that is yet. His mother sends him away with these two men who she doesn't know really anything about them other that she meets them with in AA, and they're all still alcoholics. And she sends him away for a long weekend with these two men who she doesn't know on this fishing trip somewhere far away from Glasgow. Now, Mungo knows almost immediately that he is not safe, that he is in danger with these two men, and they have ulterior motives for him. And the second timeline is 6 months before this trip. 6 to 7 months before this trip, where he meets James. James has this Ducat, which is a pigeon. It looks like this. Hold on. It's this very tall building where he keeps all of his prized pigeons. And that's how he meets James, and they immediately have a connection and this strong love. And I loved how their romance was written. It was so beautiful and so heartbreaking, and it has to all be kept in secret. So the two timelines go back and forth. It's all leading towards the end. Oh, it's so, all the trigger warnings. It's so much like Shuggie Bain, all the trigger warnings. It's so upsetting in so many aspects. I think this didn't get as much praise as Shuggie Bain did because Douglas Stewart kind of revisits a lot of the same type of characters as he did in Shuggie Bain, like a queer young man who has an alcoholic mother whom he absolutely loves and adores and wants the world for, this family who's not really sure what to do with him or do with their mother. It's so much more than that. Young Mungo, very beautiful character study. The reason I really like Douglas Stewart as a writer, he has such emotionally powerful writing. Emotionally powerful characters, but there's so much compassion in his writing for these characters when they're set in this community that wants nothing to do with them and wants to see them harmed and hurt. I think he handles it so well. This is the second book I've read by him, and it's so devastating, but he will be an auto-buy author for me for sure after reading this. Proceed with caution. This is one of the saddest books I've read recently. But that's it. That's all the books I read in April. What were your favorite books that you read in April? Have you read any of the books that I listed? What did you think about them? Did you like them? Did you hate them? If you can't think of anything else to say, put the cherry blossom emoji because we'll be leaving tomorrow for Japan. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. As always, thank you for clicking. Thank you for watching, and I'll have a new video for you soonish.